I woke up today and discovered something terrifying on the internet. There are tons of videos telling hopeful entrepreneurs to not write a business plan. Before I give you my opinion on this, I want to take a poll in the comments. If you started a business, what was your first business? Did you write a business plan? How is your business going? And what are your overall thoughts on business plans? I'll go first. Hi, my name is Megan Sharkus. My first business was Expression Med, designed medical adhesives. I did write a business plan. My business is going very, very well. We just did over $200,000 in revenue last month, and my overall opinion on business plans is that they are absolutely necessary for your first business. Let me explain. First, let's define a business plan. The internet says a business plan is a written document containing the goals of a business, the methods for attaining those goals, and the time frame for the achievement of those goals. Yes, I do believe that is extremely important. I know that you would not go on a road trip without a packing list, directions, ideas of where you're going to go and what you're going to do. But you're telling me that you'd start a multiple year journey, change your career, put your money, time, and reputation on the line without a plan? In my opinion, you should spend at least as long planning for a business as you would planning for a camping trip. In my opinion, you should spend a lot more time planning for a business than a camping trip. You stand to lose a lot of money, waste a lot of time, and ruin your reputation. If you start a business and take funding and it goes tragically wrong, it's going to be really, really hard for you to do that again. I'll elaborate by first talking about some popular arguments against business plans. Number one being how long they take to write. The most popular video against business plans on YouTube says that business plans take several days to write, whereas a pitch deck you can write in just a few hours. Well, I hate to be the first one to tell you this, but writing a business plan and preparing to launch a business is it's probably going to take you more than a couple days. I spent 6 months writing my business plan because of all of the testing and prototyping and researching involved. And then it took me an additional year to prototype and build my final product, or the first product I was going to put in front of customers. And it took a year after that to compete to fully fund my business, and that allowed me to retain 100% ownership of my business to this day. So I think there's a lot of factors that go into how long it's going to take you to write your business plan, and that all comes down to what type of business do you want to launch? Do you want to launch something that's new and unique, or do you want to mimic a business that already exists? Obviously, making something new and unique is going to take a little more time and a lot more testing, but you stand to make a lot more money. So that'll affect how long it takes. Another thing that will affect how long it takes you to prepare to launch your business and write that plan is how much risk you want to take. The more planned you are, the more testing you do, the more iterations you do, the more you dive into each area of your business, the marketing, the sales, the cash flow, the legal, the less risk you're taking and the less stressed you'll be. So in my opinion, more planning is better. The second biggest argument against business plans is market research versus market testing. Videos against business plans argue that you shouldn't spend all of your time writing a plan only to test it and find out it doesn't work. I don't know who's been teaching you guys how to write business plans, but the way I learned it, you can't write a business plan without doing market research, market testing, and prototyping. How are you going to know how much it will cost you to build your product if you haven't built several iterations yet? How do you know what percentage of market share you can realistically go after if no one in your potential market has actually held, used, and experienced your product. I personally believe that you don't even have a real business plan if you don't have real data, real testing, real prototyping, and realistic financial costs. I have judged many business competitions, and I can tell right away whether or not I'm going to push someone through to the next round just by looking at their financial projections and how realistic they are, because it will be very evident if they've done testing. A lot of people will write in their financial plan that they want to use $10,000 for marketing and $5,000 for product testing, and they are all round numbers and are probably not real at all and will not help them at all. But if you write a good business plan, you've already gotten quotes from different manufacturers, you already know exactly where you'd buy packaging materials and shipping materials, and you already would know where you're going to start to distribute your product and how much that would cost. So maybe this issue of market research versus market validation is an issue of understanding what a business plan is and what goes into it. I'm very much against doing nothing but research to complete a business plan. It should be more of a living document, but that doesn't mean that it is not absolutely necessary. I will be doing an entire video series on how to write an effective, profitable, and actually useful business plan. I'm so sorry if people have been teaching you to write business plans like research papers. I think they're completely different, all the way down from how you cite things, how you document things, how you store photos, how you build up this asset of research and information and planning for a business. So that will be super exciting. Can't wait for that. Anyway, argument number 3 is that investors are never going to read your full business plan, so why write one anyways? I suppose this depends what kind of investors you're working with. From what I've seen in the real world, people who get money from just a pitch deck are usually, young hopefuls pitching to their friends' rich parents, and they usually end up wasting their money, never building a company, and just kind of being the typical business bro that likes talking about business but doesn't like building businesses. But what I've seen is if you want to get money from someone, if you want to get mentorship from someone, if you want someone to come work for you, they do want to see your entire plan. They do want to see where their money is going, what you've done historically, and what you plan on doing in the future in order for them to be secure in their investment. If you've gotten investor money and you have a story about what resources they needed to make the final call, let me know down below. But what I have seen is investors usually use the pitch deck as kind of a way to get in the door. It should be succinct, it should be compelling, and then they typically ask a lot of questions, and those questions are very detailed and very specific, and you will be able to work through all of the prep you need for those questions in a business plan. Also, even on Shark Tank, they just don't show it. Usually after the pitch and the question and answer, the investor will do due diligence. They want to see your entire business plan. They want to know what you'll be doing with their money. They want to see your financial plan. They want to assess what risks could pop up, what you haven't thought of that you might need to. And I've seen a lot of cases where investors will love a business at the initial pitch and the Q&A, and then they will pull out funding after they've seen the business plan and found something that is a red flag to them. So if you don't want to waste your time and you want to be prepared, have a business plan. Can't say it enough. Okay, now that we've talked about 3 reasons why people would argue you shouldn't write a business plan and my thoughts on those, let's talk about 3 reasons why you absolutely should write a business plan. The first is it's a way to make sure you don't forget anything, that no surprises pop up when you've already launched a product, money is invested, and the clock is ticking. An example of this is when I first wrote a business plan. I had a plan in my head for production and go to market and who my customers were going to be. But when I saw the business plan outline, I realized that I had to look for other things and plan other things, like a cash flow statement. And having never run a business before, I didn't know what that entailed. So after doing all of my research on manufacturing costs and how much I was going to charge for my product and how quickly I could estimate sales growing based on the sales I was doing with my prototypes, I realized that I would have a cash flow issue a few months in because it took 6 weeks to get materials or to get the product to me. But then if things grew as quickly as I wanted them to, I would sell out of product. And I noticed that, and so I had to learn about getting loans and what that meant. And, should I go from the bank? Should I get it from friends and family? Like, what would I do to make sure that I didn't let my customers down? And this actually did happen. And I was so, so glad I had a plan and I knew how to calculate all of the things to make sure that I had money at the right time. And had I not built out a business plan, I wouldn't have known to look into that kind of a thing. Building on that, when I first saw the financial plan portion of the business plan outline, I used the one on deca.org. I pulled up some examples and realized all of the things that I would need to allocate money for, like legal and insurance. Yes, you need like liability insurance and renter's insurance, depending on what type of business you have. I had a physical product, so all of this was very important. And different budgets for humans and marketing and sales and, inventory, just everything. Like, you might have missed something. I think, like I said, the most surprising thing to me was the cash flow statements and the different insurances and the different things that I had to look into for regulation of a tape that goes on skin. So I was glad I did all of that before I launched. Which brings me to point number 2, why you need to write a business plan is so you can grow your business faster after you launch. In arguments against business plans, people talked about how a business was a race against the clock and why would you spend so much time writing a business plan and doing all of those iterations and research and understanding before you launch when you could just launch, iterate, go. What these other videos were saying is true. Once you launch your company, competitors will be interested. Big businesses will be interested. Everyone is going to want to copy you and follow you or potentially beat you, especially if you're successful. So you need to go through all of the planning and brainstorming of what are all of the different marketing channels that I can go through, who are all of the different types of customers that I can sell to, what will be my next product that I could potentially launch, what are some different verticals that I could go in. And, there's just so much potential and so many big areas that involve a lot of brainstorming, a lot of creativity and research, and just a lot of planning. And if you launch your product, you're on the market, everyone can see what you're doing, and then you start researching in all of these different categories, you will become overwhelmed, especially if you are a solo founder, especially if you're bootstrapping and you can't just hire a giant team. Also, if you hire a giant team, they can't do all this brainstorming for you because they might not be passionate about your market. You have to do so much of this brainstorming. You don't want to launch your product and then be thinking about marketing, funding, product planning, HR and hiring, cash flow, legal documents, supply chain expansion and negotiations and optimization, competitive market space, where you're going to be listing your product, who you're going to be selling it to. All of these different opportunities and things will just fly by once you've launched. You risk falling behind competitors or not adequately serving the market that you've built a product for. If you have a plan, you'll have less anxiety and overwhelm and more wins and profits. This is a good situation to be in. Reason 3 to have a business plan before you launch your product is for your hires, mentors, and obviously investors. But we kind of talked about that. If you have a plan and you understand why your product is so important and why it's going to be successful, then that will help you convince amazing people to work for you, advise you, partner with you, and invest in you. If you only have a pitch deck that you wrote in a couple of hours, it's going to be really hard for people to take you seriously and for you to attract the right people. Bonus reason number 4, because I just thought of this. If you don't have a plan and you think that you can just wing it, you're kind of putting yourself at risk for crazy situations. Naive entrepreneurs that don't fully understand what their plan is are great targets for loan sharks and crazy consultants and manufacturers that want to loop you into crazy contracts and overpriced materials and much, much more. So you are eliminating a lot of risk and liability and targeting by writing a business plan. My closing thoughts. Business plans are not perfect, but they are necessary. My product is actually very different than my original business plan, but my target market and my marketing strategy, my funding strategy, and really fun campaigns that I end up implementing are actually exactly the same as they were in my original business plan. So while I did iterate and change and grow some things, a lot of it was utilized and was very, very useful. My preparedness helped me grow my business while maintaining 100% ownership. It relieved a lot of anxiety and prevented a lot of problems. It didn't prevent all of the problems because any startup owner will tell you that those just come with the job description, and I'd love to tell more stories on that later. Lastly, having a business plan helped me hire awesome people and to have really awesome mentors and industry partners. I hope this video was helpful. If you strongly disagree or have something to add or have a question for moi, comment it down below. Please like this video because this is a baby channel. It is growing and it needs love, support, and like button clicks in order to grow to be a big, strong, healthy channel. So I'd appreciate your help in feeding my baby. I know we just met, but hope it's not too much to ask. And yeah, thank you so much. I'll see you next week with my video on how to write a useful and profitable business plan.